How's it? Welcome to Cannabiz Africa on this beautiful day in Cape Town. I really feel like I have a spring in my step today.
Well, so do I, because the sun is out and it feels like spring.
It does. So we were in Joburg last week and it felt like summer was coming. Got back in, it was freezing.
It was raining.
And now it's coming out and it's just the mood lifts, you know, when you look at the mountain, the sun shining down.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got a busy show today. It's been a crazy week for the cannabis industry. In a special edition today, cannabis hits Parliament.
Whoa!
You're not Parliament.
Oh, my second shot. No, I'm not.
No.
I'm not.
MPs here from a range of stakeholders, just how bad the Cannabis Private Purposes Bill is, which we know, and essentially should be thrown in the rubbish bin. So it's been a very exciting week. We're going to go through that in a sec. Ramaphosa is urged to sign an executive order to halt cannabis arrests. That would be a momentous move forward, Mr. Ramaphosa.
Stop arresting us, guys, please.
Get that one sorted. The Eastern Cape farmers say dacha trade is legal under traditional laws. We kind of know that.
Yeah.
And why is no one else listening?
Yeah.
What else is happening?
Well, the MPs face a united call for legislation of the adult use of cannabis. So they got to know the peeps, the constitutions are saying yes to adult use. And also SAPRA is under fire for the claim that cannabis is not a foodstuff. So clearly these guys need to go to Cannabis, was it Cheeba Cannabis Academy? I think that's an academy that actually trains and educates people around cannabis. So they need to go there quick.
Yeah. SAPRA in the news again. You'll see, you want to be naughty, we will find you.
Enroll in our house. And also we talk about Cheeba Cannabis Academy's first graduation in Africa. So that's also going to be up on the news with.
And without further ado, let's cross to Limpopo province for Brett Hilton-Barber with latest cannabis news. Hit it.
Good day from Limpopo, from the Cannabiz Africa News Desk. Our special focus will be cannabis in Parliament, but before that, history has been made with the first 15 cannabis students in Africa graduating from the Cheeba Cannabis campus in the Vaal Triangle. That was this last Saturday, 4th of September. The students completed a 3-month course in Cannabis 101 and are now equipped with the skills necessary to take on the emerging legal cannabis market. Class head Duduzi Zondo.
My name is Duduzi Zondo. I just graduated from Cheeba Cannabis Academy, the first cannabis academy in Africa. The 3 months that I was here was a big life lesson more than anything else. It may not have been what I thought it would be, but it was what I needed it to be more than anything. The industry is opening up and education is definitely needed. In the famous words of Bob Marley, we'd say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. So I feel like Cheeba is here to free people's minds and to take away the stigma of cannabis and to also just make people realize that there is a future in this.
That is Duduzi Zondo at the Cheeba Cannabis campus. Back to our main news story. Well, the Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Correctional Services has never heard anything like this before. For 3 days last week, it was confronted with a barrage of input from stakeholders in the cannabis industry who essentially trashed the Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill. That's the bill that's meant to put into effect the 2018 Constitutional Court ruling allowing the private adult use of cannabis. Leading the charge was lawyer Ricky Stone from the Imzimvubu Farmers Support Network, a grouping that represents the interests of many of the illegal cannabis farmers from Pondoland. He said the rights of dacha farmers in the old Transkei was protected under traditional law as defined by both the South African Constitution and the United Nations. He called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to have his Tumamima moment of enlightenment and halt all cannabis arrests immediately and allow the Eastern Cape to make a living out of an agricultural commodity that the country should be proud of. About 30 organizations gave parliamentarians short shrift on cannabis. Doran Isaacs of the Cannabis Action Group said South Africa's legal definitions of cannabis were so tortured that lawmakers should hang their heads in shame. And he asked the simple question, if they're so confused about the definition of the plant, why didn't they just Google it? If they had, they would have found that the Oxford Dictionary definition of cannabis sativa is a tall plant with a stiff upright stem, divided serrated leaves, glandular hairs, and is used to produce hemp fiber and as a drug. Isaac said that should be the starting point of any legal definition. The Cannabis Trade Association of Africa told Parliament that cannabis should be legalized and graded like fruit. That's AA for medicinal. If you claim your cannabis can cure something, get your license from the health department. A for indoor, no strict medicinal value, license from agriculture. B for greenhouse, also no strict medicinal value, license from agriculture. And C for outdoor, ditto the above. Several traditional leaders gave their input via Zoom from Lusiki. The gist of their message is, we've been growing cannabis for longer than time immemorial. Don't force us into a licensing regime that favors Western big business interests. Don't come to us with talk of testing and THC levels. We know what we're doing, just make us legal. Dr. Keith Scott of the South African Drug Policy Initiative said that cannabis should not be seen from a prohibitionist perspective. He said if lawmakers had to consider the dangers of alcohol versus cannabis, it would be obvious which substance should be banned. He said there were 0 globally recorded deaths from cannabis, while alcohol was a contributing factor in 50 fatal diseases and the leading cause of death in half of them. The Eastern Cape Department of Agriculture's input was interesting. They said that the Department of Justice did not see the full commercial potential of the plant, which is a valuable cash crop for subsistence farmers, and they wanted a cohesive law that took the cannabis economy into consideration and did not narrowly focus on legalizing private consumption. Kasatu said it was also worried that government could not speak with one voice on cannabis and that government departments seemed to be at odds with each other. So that's it from the news desk right now. Back to you guys in Cape Town.
I love it. I love all this discussion. I mean, a few things. Firstly, it's been 3 years since this private purposes bill was put out, September 2018. And we are only talking about it now. And that is actually shameful that it's taken 3 years to get to this point. But at least it is being spoken about. I also just want to say a massive big up to Ricky Stone, who's been, trying to help the farmers in the Eastern Cape for decades and has put a lot of personal sacrifice and is super committed to trying to help the people of that region. So big up to Ricky Stone. But yeah, I think it's about time. I think it's about time all this stuff came out and we spoke about it and people get held accountable. SAPRA making mistakes, like making ridiculous statements, about cannabis and foodstuffs. They must be held accountable for those statements. The same with the Department of Health, saying that the cannabis has no nutritional value. I mean, it's shocking that our leadership it sort of has that narrative. And there's no excuse. I'm sorry, there's just no excuse. There are a lot of people in this cannabis industry who know a lot about this plant. We just need to be engaged with. So I think it was a really productive week last week. I'm glad to see things are moving forward. But now the next step is to keep the pressure on so we actually have action. Otherwise, it just becomes rhetoric that disappears into the corridors of Parliament. But we need to fight, and we need to keep fighting. And some of the things that you've mentioned, the ideas that were put forward to last week, I think were very, very powerful. I think we should listen to those and make them happen ASAP.
Indeed, we should. What was very interesting for me, guys, was that this felt like the first time that from an African perspective, there's a different view of cannabis being put into an official formal platform. We've heard so much about medicinal marijuana and European examples of hemp, but for the first time we saw people from Lusiki and Transkei crossing to Parliament via Zoom, and their message was essentially, don't tell us what to do, guys. We know what we're doing. We're not interested in testing and licenses and THC levels. Just let us get on with it, which throws up a whole lot of interesting questions. Plus the one interesting that they said was, we've got it all wrong about cannabis and kids. Part of traditional farming is that kids are involved in the day-to-day subsistence farming, whether it's with cattle or poultry or plants, and that they need to be taught how to grow cannabis properly because it's something completely different to consuming it, and it's part of the agricultural indigenous knowledge system. And that was an interesting objection that they had to the Cannabis for Private Purposes bill, the whole thing around children.
Yeah, I think also that's also good to know, because also the other people get another perspective, because we live in the city and in the towns and we've got all these laws, but then back home in the village, in the rural areas, people are ruling things and doing things in a whole different way. And I think that's great that we've got that perspective, and finally there's a voice that's been given from an African perspective, because all the time we're just listening to the European sort of like point of view. And I think now at least the people might have felt now they have been listened to, and maybe now action can be taken.
Yeah,
I think that hits a very... I think that is a very sensitive chord amongst the members of parliament, guys, especially amongst the ANC people, because there is a bit of a struggle narrative that's emerging here. And as soon as you have the voice of the marginalized and the poor coming to the fore, the ANC MPs did stand up and take notice. And the Justice Committee chair actually made a warning to say, guys, we must be careful that the industry doesn't slip up through our hands and that we fall under the control of multinational pharmaceutical companies. And I think that is the one big thing that if Parliament just took that on board and said, how do we protect local stakeholders against foreign domination or canna colonialism, that would be a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Well, there's some good conversation. So let's see how it goes. We've got to keep the fire burning and keep pushing. On a lighter note, let's cross to Noxy in Johannesburg for Canna Lifestyle.
Thanks, guys. Hello and welcome to the Canna News Lifestyle Desk with me, the Kush Queen, bringing you all things local and international cannabis lifestyle, health, entertainment, and now all things art. Cannabis has definitely become cooler with the use of THC and CBD products on the rise globally. It comes as no surprise that more and more people are thinking out of the box and getting creative about how they make money from the plant without worrying about legalities. The latest and greatest creative spin in the industry that we love so much is Cannabis Art. American-based company Gold Leaf has come up with some pure genius ways to decorate your space while educating your visitors through some unique art pieces. If you're a cannabis lover like myself, you know just how difficult it can be to explain the intricacies of the plant to everyday people who probably already have so many misconceptions floating about in their minds about weed. Gold Leaf is producing slick-looking cannabis-themed charts and infographics to inform users and dispel myths about pot and CBD. Their detailed cannabis art includes educational, evocative designs that look great and provide valuable information to educate and enlighten. One of the things that impressed us most about this art is it cites only the most respected experts in their work. Cannabis research, as you already know, is evolving quickly and is forever changing, which is why they often create art in small batches. This way they can stay in step with current findings and easily update any of their prints to align with the most recent cannabis data available. I mean, isn't that just amazing? By elevating a more thoughtful, educated, and eye-catching perspective, Gold Leaf hopes they can continue to shift the conversations towards a more holistic future. Imagine having this art on your walls, guys, in your home or in your office. Talk about a conversation piece. Back to you guys, Trenton and Linda.
I really love that art. It looks amazing. This is the art I have on my wall over here. There you go. There's some art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to see it so like the classy, and you could walk into a doctor's room and have those on a wall, or into a funky store. I think the whole industry is just elevating. It doesn't have to be this cloak and dagger underground scene anymore. We can be proud of it. It's clean, it's crisp, So very cool, very nice. Yeah,
gorgeous. I can't wait for somebody to open something like this here locally. I mean, I'd be the first person to buy. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about how do I make money from cannabis, then art is definitely one of the ways to go. And you don't have to worry about legalities and who's not allowed to export and where you can and can't sell, or you can or not, all of those complications.
I think what's very interesting is what you're alluding to is the rise of cannabis as a high consumer end item. As it gets legalized, so the market differentiates, and people are moving away from being able to get the best possible deal for a gram of whatever they want, through to being something slightly elitist. Now we have the kind of grinder or the instrument for consuming cannabis that makes us a talking point amongst other people. I'm not sure if that's such a good thing that we're getting into this, but hey, there's space for everybody.
Yeah, I watched this program a few weeks ago on these guys in the States that sell these like cigar joints for like $5,000 a pop. And it's all like a status symbol. It's all, it's just typical of the Americans, take everything to the extreme. But it's literally cannabis is for everybody. We often talk about what is the target market for cannabis? And it's like, well, it's everybody, and with our marketing hats on, we're like, well, what's the LMS, where they live?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's like, whether it's a doctor or if it's a worker, or it literally, cannabis is for everybody. And the more we embrace it, the quicker we embrace it, and the quicker we all use cannabis, the world will be a better place.
100%. I mean, it's the same thing with our students at Cheeba Africa. It's like, we're not sure exactly who's the target, because you get all types of people from all walks of life. And that basically is something quite unique, I think, for an actual, element, substance, product, whatever it is, that people are drawn to it in such a way. And they have such sort of an affiliation with the plant. It's almost as if, like, back off my plant, don't touch it. Cannabis is for me, and we're very quick to respond, militantly if we feel like it's being attacked.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you say about the definitions of cannabis and what it is, whether it's high end, low end, or whatever. One of the points that came out of Parliament that struck me last week was this one cannabis activist said, you can't put in law that cannabis is an undesirable substance. It's very desirable, just as desirable as chocolate.
Exactly. Cool, guys. Well, it's been a big week for cannabis last week, and let's just keep the momentum going. We've still got a way to go and still got to fight. And I think what I'm really hoping that happens is that in the next few months, we start to get some change and some traction and some legislative updates, so that by the time we get into next year, we can hit the ground running, because we sure as hell need it in our economy right now. So let's keep pushing, keep the fire burning. On that note, from the Canosphere team in Johannesburg, Limpopo, and Slaapstad, we'll see you same place, same time next week. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.